Hi everybody, welcome to this week's edition of Everyday Cooking with Lynn
and Heather.
This week we are going to be doing homemade Sunday sauce. You might call it Sunday gravy. It's a homemade spaghetti sauce. We are also doing homemade meatballs, and we're also going to be doing just a basic sweet Italian sausage with it that'll go into our sauce to give it some more of that wonderful meat flavor. So stay tuned and enjoy. The first thing we're going to show you is Sunday sauce. The first thing you're going to want to do when making your sauces, you want to get 3 to 4 cloves of garlic. Chop them up, put them in the pan with, I would say, roughly about 1/4 to 1/2 cup of olive oil. Doesn't have to be extra virgin olive oil, but olive oil. You want to brown that garlic, and you want to leave that in the bottom of your pan. Once you do that, take it off the heat. Whether you have an electric or a gas stove, remove it from the heat. Because when you pour your other ingredients in there, you don't want them to start burning to the bottom of your pan. You want the bottom to cool down a bit. Once you have that done, you are going to add 2 28-ounce cans of tomato sauce, 2 28-ounce cans of tomato puree, 1 28-ounce can of peeled plum tomatoes. Now, if you're someone who doesn't like whole tomatoes in your sauce, which that is me, I still use this for that flavor. You're going to get so much flavor out of those tomatoes, and you can always use a slotted spoon to pull the whole tomatoes out, but you still have that flavor infused while you're cooking the sauce. You are also going to add 2 6-ounce cans of tomato puree. The tomato puree, you're going to use 1 can for every 1 28-ounce can of sauce and 1 28-ounce can of puree. So that's how you start your sauce. Once you have all of those ingredients in, on top of leaving your garlic in with the oil from when you browned the garlic earlier, you're going to add roughly 1/2 cup of parsley, about 1 tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of whole oregano, 1 tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of basil leaves, roughly 1/4 cup, maybe a little less than 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan Romano cheese. Now, if you don't like Parmesan Romano, you can use Pecorino Romano, anything like that, but you want that nice grated cheese in there. That's going to give some depth to your sauce, and it's going to really make it taste amazing. The other thing you want to do too is, if you're someone who doesn't like a really sweet sauce, put in about 1/4 to 1/2 cup of a very dry red wine. Now, if you find that after you've done that, you've kind of set the taste off balance, keep adding in a teaspoon of sugar until you get it in that middle where you're liking it. I personally don't use the red wine or the sugar in my sauce. It's just not my taste, but some people do, and that's how you can add it.
And you said that also keeps down the acidity, right?
It does. The sugar will keep down the acidity, but it will definitely make a taste change. So that's how you get your sauce started. The way you're going to cook your sauce is on low for 2 to 3 hours. You want it to really get infused with all of those flavors. Stir it occasionally. This is my antique spoon that my spouse got me because he found it at an antique sale and thought it would be a great thing to make sauce with. So I always use the same spoon now every time I do sauce. So that is how you are going to do the sauce. Once this has been going about 2.5 hours, I'm going to show you how you take your meatballs out after they've been just about fully cooked and add them to the sauce to get that meat flavoring. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back and tell you about the meatballs. Hey everybody, welcome back. Now we're going to show you how to do our homemade meatballs. Now, with my homemade meatballs, it has been my recipe's been a secret for a while. I gave it out a few years ago to my friends, but a couple of them said, still doesn't taste right. Well, it's because I never gave them all the whole recipe. So, I'm kind of giving it out today. So, the big secret to keeping meatballs moist is 1 egg per every 1 pound of ground beef. You can use whatever type of ground beef you would like. 93.7, 95.5, 80.10 is my personal. The reason I use the cheaper meat is because that fat content within the meat makes for a moister meatball, it makes for a better meatball, and it still helps hold the meatball together. So what you're going to be doing is, if in this case, I used 5.33 pounds of meatballs, and I used 6 eggs. If you're going a little bit over, throw in the extra egg. If it's too wet, you can always add a little more breadcrumb to bring that down. So, for your meatballs, you are going to want to add, and you can do this per pound. For 1 pound, for every pound of meat, for every pound of ground beef, 1 egg. You're going to want to do roughly about a 1/4 cup of grated cheese. Between a 1/4 to a 1/2 cup of Italian-style breadcrumbs. Roughly about 2 to 3 tablespoons of parsley, a teaspoon of basil, a teaspoon of oregano. And that's all there is for that. Once you start mixing it in, add a little bit of oil. It does not have to be olive oil. Regular, everyday vegetable oil is fine, but you're just going to want to add in, for every pound of meat, maybe a 1/4 cup, just to seal it together. Now, if you're mixing everything together and it still seems dry, don't add more oil. Add more water. So that is how you're going to get those meatballs to the right consistency.
Now, what kind of cheese do you use?
I use grated Parmesan Romano, or I use Pecorino Romano. The same type of cheese I use to add into the sauce, I use in the meatballs. I don't do anything to the sausage. Nothing. I get sweet Italian sausage and I just leave them as is, and I just put them in the oven and bake them. Some people like hot Italian sausage. That's totally to your taste. I don't suggest putting them in the sauce because some of that heat will come out in your sauce. So if you want to use hot Italian sausage, that's fine. Just don't add the meat to the sauce afterwards. Once we have this cooked up, we're going to show you how to add it to the sauce, because you don't want to get a lot of that grease in there from the meat, but you want to put the meatballs in there and let it go for a little while so it gets that meat flavoring into your sauce. For the meatballs, there is a specific size. If you're doing something the size of a baseball, that is too big. That is way too big. It'll cook, but it's going to take forever, and it's not going to be that great in the sauce.
Yeah, and it's probably going to dry on the outside and not be as moist.
Yep.
If you try to cook this big one like that all the way through.
Here we have what I call a marble size, a big marble. That is too small. The perfect size of a meatball is roughly a golf ball to a ping pong ball size. That is what you want. Oh, I forgot one other ingredient too in the meatballs. Fresh garlic. You want to use fresh cut up garlic. For every pound of meat, you want at least 2 cloves. I know that seems like a lot, but that garlic really needs to stand out in the meatballs.
Yes.
So, I'm going to show you how to roll the perfect meatball. Get all your ingredients in there and nice and mushed up.
Now, could we do smaller meatballs for like appetizers for like a party you want to go to?
You could. You're going to want to adjust the time down, and you're going to want to adjust the heat down.
Right.
When they're bigger, we're going to do 400 at roughly 30 minutes. If you're going to do a little meatball for an appetizer, you're going to do something about that big. You're going to want to do at 400 for about 15 minutes, and check it every 5 minutes afterwards.
Yeah, because you don't want them too dried out.
Nope.
And you don't want them not done.
Yep. And the other thing I would do too is if you're doing these as a appetizer, put them in your pan, add the sauce to the pan before you cook them. With the meat raw, put just a very, very thin layer of sauce down, because they're going to take some of that flavor infusion in.
Really?
And yeah, and that's a really, really nice appetizer. One other thing you can do too is, if you want to do this as an appetizer, roll them really small, put a layer of sauce down, cook them till they're about 3/4 of the way through. Pull them out. Put some grated mozzarella cheese over the whole thing, and another layer of sauce, a good layer of sauce on top of it. Put it back in the oven for 5 to 10 minutes, and then you'll have the little meatballs with some mozzarella on it and sauce, where if you have toothpicks or even little bamboo skewers, it's like saying Worcestershire, you can actually have them picked right out from the tray, and you can serve them right off of what you cooked them in.
Now, can you freeze them?
You can. When you freeze them, you want to freeze them the day you put them together, and they'll go maybe 2-3 weeks.
Really?
But
In the freezer?
Yep, but they have to be in a really good freezer type bag.
Right.
Don't use a cheap bag, they won't
Can you
last.
freeze them in the sauce?
I don't suggest to because sauce, when it freezes, even when it thaws, that'll get water in it. And you
Okay.
don't want that water in with your meatballs. So I always say freeze them separately. I've never frozen the sausage before because, quite frankly, it never lasts in my house. I freeze meatballs during the holidays to have when friends and family come over. But again, I make a lot of this so that I have leftovers during the week.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't really freeze anything, we just use it for leftovers during the week.
All right, but if you wanted to freeze that, how when you go to cook it, what would you do?
I would bring it back to room temperature and then exactly like that, 400 for 30 minutes.
Okay.
So definitely bring it back. Do not put it right in the oven from frozen, they won't cook right.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and that's with a lot of different things. Most things, unless it's something that was made to come out of frozen and go in the oven like that, whenever you freeze anything, bring it to room temperature, then cook it.
Now, does it have to be completely unfrozen before you cook it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. You might be able to have it where you might feel a little bit of crunch in the middle. I still wouldn't suggest it because then your outer meatball is going to cook a lot faster and
I
your
see.
inside's going to be raw.
Okay.
Even with the little ones.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
this is how we do a meatball. You want to do roughly about the size of a golf ball / ping pong ball. Just roll it right up, and it doesn't have to be a perfect circle. Put them into your pan and just throw them in the oven. I've had the oven preheating to 400. What I do is I start with 30 minutes, I check them at 30 minutes, and I go in 5-minute increments after that. Now, we've discussed this before about making sure your oven is at 10.
Yes.
When you preheat your oven, don't go, oh, well, it's almost to it, let me put it in. No! Listen to us, we are telling you this. No!
Yeah.
You have to make sure your oven is at 10. And one of the ways you're going to know that these are cooked is they will be a beautiful brown, and you'll see a lot of liquid, you'll see a lot of fat in the pan. I'm going to tell you my best way to tell that they're cooked. Take a fork, poke one, and eat it.
Yeah.
If it's done, it's done.
Yeah, there
That's
you
the way to test the meatball. Eat it. So, there you go. We're going to let you go for right now. We're going to get these in the oven, and then we'll be back showing you how to put your meat into your sauce so you get that meat flavoring, and then we will be ready to show you the final product. Hey everybody, we're back, and our meatballs are all set. This is what you're going to see when they are done and ready to go.
They look good.
And the way I tested them again was exactly what I said. I ate them. So, and then we also have our mild Italian sausage as well. So what we're going to do now is, I don't really care for the plum tomatoes in my sauce all the way through. I use those plum tomatoes to season the sauce. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our sauce and we are going to take out those plum tomatoes. Any type of strainer can do. You just got to have a slotted strainer so that you can get them right out. So here you have the plum tomatoes. Take them out full just like that. If you have any garlic or anything that comes out with them, try and throw that back in the pot.
Now, what do you do with the tomatoes after you have cooked them like that?
Some people like to cut them up and add them to the dish. That's totally up to you. They're fully cooked, so you can do that if you would like. I don't. Once I take them out of the sauce, they're done to me. I have no use for them again.
So you just throw them away?
I just throw them away.
So it really depends on what you like. If you want a chunkier sauce, you can cut them up and they can be a chunkier sauce. Or if you want a smooth, thick sauce, then you get rid of them.
Which is what I prefer. I like a smooth, thick sauce. So now you're going to want to add your meatballs to the sauce so they get some of that flavoring. You don't have to add all of them. You don't have to add all of them. Add like 6 or 7 because you're just looking for the flavor. Just put them right there on your slotted spoon. Dump them in.
Right, and if there's any grease in the pan, that'll just drain out with the slotted spoon. So.
Yep. And then you don't want that grease in.
Right.
Again, make sure your oven is on low. You don't need to stir or anything like that. Just put them in. Now, this is up to you. I add one of the sausages too. Again, I do this because it's mild sausage. I do not do this with hot, because that hot will heat up your sauce.
And that just gives it more flavor, right?
Gives it more flavor. You want to make sure you cut it though, because you want some of that nice sausage meat showing. Then drop those right in. And you're going to go about another 30 minutes to an hour on that, and then you'll be good to go. On low. Yep, on low. If you have an electric oven, 1. You want it almost to the low simmer, between 2 and 1, and you'll be good. All right, next stage is plating, so we'll be back. Hey everybody, here is our finished product. Homemade Sunday sauce, homemade meatballs, sweet Italian sausage with capellini, aka angel hair al dente pasta. We also have homemade Italian herb bread from Heather. She did this in her bread maker.
Yes, and we're not giving you the recipe because it's in a recipe book.
Yep, and it's for the bread maker, so if you don't have a bread maker, it's not going to do anything. But this recipe for the sauce and the meatballs will be up on Everyday Cooking with Lynn and Heather on our Facebook page. The video will also be on our YouTube page. So enjoy, and from Lynn and Heather, bon mangia, ciao.
Ciao.
Use 3 meatballs. Always, use 3 eggs. I'm going to start that again.
Southern just comes flaming out. Paula Dean it. Discount Paula Dean.
I got better hair than Paula Dean. Almost as white, but not quite.